In this video, we are going to talk about conflict of laws or otherwise private international law in the Philippines. So, in Philippine law, when we say conflict of laws, we also mean private international law. This is that branch of law which deals with legal disputes that contain a foreign element. Thereby, these cases are not confined only to one jurisdiction, but is linked to two or more legal systems. So when we say a foreign element, this may arise in several ways. For instance, there is a foreign party, such as a contract between a Filipino and an American company. Or there is a foreign transaction, such as the contract is signed in Tokyo or a marriage was celebrated in Las Vegas. This can also involve a foreign property, for instance, inheritance involving a land in New York, but the heirs are Filipinos. Or this involves a foreign law, such as succession of a Spanish national with properties in the Philippines. Because multiple legal systems may claim authority, a problem of a choice of law arises, such as which country's law should govern. Now, the Philippine legal system resolves this using conflict rules under our Civil Code, the Family Code, special laws, and Supreme Court jurisprudence. Now, conflict of laws does not create substantive rights. Instead, it provides the connecting factors such as the nationality, domicile, situs, place of execution in order to determine the proper law applicable. So let's look at the different Philippine principles in the application of conflict of laws. So first principle is the lex loci celebrationis, or the law of the place of celebration. This means that the law of the country where a marriage or contract is celebrated governs its formal validity. The rationale is that form is most closely connected with the place where the act is done. According to our Civil Code Article 17, forms and solemnities of contracts and public instruments are governed by the law of the place of execution. Furthermore, under Family Code Article 26, marriages valid abroad are valid in the Philippines, except if void under the Philippine law. A good example to this is bigamy. So, for instance, a marriage solemnized in Las Vegas between two Filipinos may be valid abroad in form, but still void in the Philippines, as this is contrary to substantive Philippine law, being both of them are already married. Another principle is the lex nationali, or nationality principle. So in here, the personal law of an individual is determined by his or her nationality. The nationality that governs the status, family rights, duties, and capacity of the person. According to Civil Code Article 15, laws relating to family rights and duties, or the status, condition, and legal capacity of persons, are binding upon citizens of the Philippines, even though living abroad. The rationale behind is that this ensures that a citizen's personal status remains uniform regardless of residence. So in the case of Ten Chavez versus Iscano, a Nevada divorce between Filipinos is not valid in the Philippines because divorce is not allowed by their national law, which is the Philippine law. So a Filipino in Japan cannot validly enter into divorce even if allowed under Japanese law because his national law, which is the Philippine law, prohibits it. Let's go to the principle of lex domicili, or the law of domicile. Here, it means that in some countries, a person's personal law is determined by domicile rather than nationality. When we say domicile, this is the place where a person has his fixed residence and intends to remain. Now, in the Philippines, we follow nationality principle according to our Article 15 of the Civil Code and not the domicile law. But domicile is still relevant in jurisdiction and succession matters. So, for example, an American domiciled in California is governed by California law in terms of capacity to marry. However, a Filipino in California remains governed by Philippine law on capacity because we follow the nationality law. Another principle is the lex resite, or the law of the situs of property. This means that the law of the place where the property is located governs its ownership, transfer, and other real rights. So according to Civil Code Article 16, real property as well as personal property is subject to the law of the country where it is situated. The rationale behind is that property is mostly closely tied to its location, and the local sovereign controls the land within its territory. Thus, in the case of Belize versus Belize, an American estate in the Philippines, thus Philippine law governs that real property here, although succession rights follow his national law, which is the American law. So, for example, if a Spaniard dies leaving a land in Cebu, the Philippine law will govern the transfer and ownership of the Cebu land because of our law of the situs of property, regardless of the Spanish law. Another principle is the lex loci delicti commissi, or the law of the place of the wrong. This simply means that the law of the place where a tort, delict, or wrong was committed governs the liability and remedies. The rationale behind the wrongful act and its effect are most connected to the place where it occurred. So, for example, a Filipino injured in a Singapore car accident must rely on Singapore tort law for recovery of damages. Another principle, lex loci contractus, or the law of the place of contracting. So in here, the law of the place where a contract is perfected governs its intrinsic validity unless parties agrees otherwise. So Civil Code Article 17 and Article 1306 stipulates that parties are free to stipulate terms, provided these are not contrary to law, morals, public order, or public policy. So in the case of Saudi Arabian Airlines versus CA, in an employment contract abroad, the Philippine labor law will still apply because this is a matter of public policy. So for instance, a contract signed in Hong Kong is governed by Hong Kong law unless parties stipulate another applicable law and unless it is contrary to public order or public policy. Then we have the autonomy of parties, or the lex voluntatis or lex intentionis. This means parties may choose which law governs their contract, provided that it does not contravene mandatory Philippine laws or public policy. The reason behind this reflects contractual freedom in international dealings. So, for example, a Philippine company and a French company may choose French law for a sales contract. This is a valid choice, but Philippine courts may refuse enforcement if it violates Philippine labor or land laws. So in the case of Pakistan International Airlines versus Ople, now even if foreign law governs, the Philippine labor standards still prevail as a matter of a strong public policy. Then, public policy or order public exception. This stipulates that even if foreign law applies, it will not be enforced if it is contrary to Philippine public policy, morals, constitutional, statutory provisions. The rationale behind is to safeguard or protect the sovereignty and moral fabric of the Philippine law. So, for example, polygamous marriages, which are valid abroad, cannot be recognized in the Philippines. So, such is the case of the Chavez versus Escanio, whereby a foreign divorce is invalid for Filipinos as it violates Philippine public policy. Then we have the Renvoi Doctrine. In here, there is a foreign law that refers the matter back to Philippine law or to a third country's law. And the reason behind is to avoid conflict when foreign law has its own conflict rules. So for example, a Spaniard who dies leaving a land in Cebu. Now, under the Spanish law, it follows the national law. It refers to the succession of immobiles to the situs law, or where the property is, which is under Philippine law. Thus, Philippine will apply its own law. So, in the case of Aznar versus Garcia, the Philippine court accepted the renvoi when the Spanish conflict law referred the succession issues back to Philippine law. Then we have processual presumption, meaning if a foreign law is not pleaded and proved, Philippine courts may presume it is the same as the Philippine law. The rationale behind courts cannot take judicial notice of foreign law unless it is proven as a fact. Thereby, a Japanese contract litigated in Philippines without proof of Japanese law will be interpreted under the Philippine contract law. We also have the doctrine of forum non-convenience. Here, even if Philippine courts have jurisdiction, they may refuse to exercise it if another forum is more appropriate and convenient. The rationale behind is to prevent harassment, duplication, and inefficient litigation. An example to this is a dispute between two Americans involving a Texas contract. This may be dismissed by Philippine courts due to forum non-convenience. So such is also the case of Puyat versus Zabarte, whereby Philippine courts may dismiss cases when the trial is inconvenient and foreign forum is more suitable. We also have characterization or qualification. In here, the process of determining under which legal category, such as contract, succession, property, which legal category an issue falls in order to apply the proper conflict rule. Now, the rationale behind is that this is an essential step because conflict rules depend on subject classification. So for example, if a Filipino dies in Spain, leaving land in the Philippines, well, the court must first characterize whether this is a succession matter, which will be governed by national law, or a property matter, which will be governed by the situs or place of the law. So in the case of Miziano versus Brimo, the court had to characterize whether the issue was one of a succession, and then it will apply national law, or one of property, whereby the situs law is gonna be applied. So here is the bar exam tip. So when answering a conflict of law question, there are 3 steps. First, identify what is the connecting factor. Is it nationality, domicile, situs, place of contract, or delict? And then use the applicable rule. And third, do not forget that there can be a public policy exemption. All right. If you found this video useful and substantial, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Daghang salamat.